How do you know when you've dodged an iceberg? How do you know that you're going to be okay? Just this last week, we dodged a constitutional iceberg. While things are still dynamic and there's always grounds for things to change, we saw something unfold last Friday that the nation was waiting for. The decision of learning resources v. Trump, or VOS selections versus Trump, or as I like to think of it, the IEEPA tariff case. You can't overstate how important this case was. I am telling you, we had a moment in time where the balance of powers, the separation of powers, part of our version of ordered liberty, was at stake. The idea that the president using IEEPA could declare an emergency and create any types of tariffs across the vast trading partners of America had never been done before. It had never been done before. And as we constantly reiterated every time we got, maybe you liked the tariffs, maybe you liked where things were going, but ultimately that power would go to somebody else, maybe your worst political enemy. And so when I say we've dodged a constitutional iceberg, oh, I mean it. But let's take a look. Let's look back just a few short months ago in a excerpt from the oral arguments in the IEEPA tariff case. This exchange, which I'm about to show you, is an exchange between Solicitor General Sauer talking to Justice Gorsuch. And Justice Gorsuch really kind of talks about this one-way ratchet of power that we saw in this case and the fact that this would never go back. Check this out.
The president simply vetoes legislation to try to take these powers back.
Well, he has the authority to veto legislation to terminate a national emergency, for example. I mean, he retains the powers in the background because IEEPA is still on the books. But if he declares an emergency and Congress doesn't like it and passes a joint resolution, yes, he can absolutely veto that.
Yeah, Congress, as a practical matter, can't get this power back once it's handed it over to the president. It's a one-way ratchet toward the gradual but continual accretion of power in the executive branch and away from the people's elected representatives.
I disagree with that, and the recent historical counterexample of Congress's termination of the COVID emergency demonstrates that the political oversight
with the president's assent,
meaningful.
With the president's assent, in fact,
once he lost it by a veto-proof majority in the Senate, I think the position moved. And I think he realized, and that's the political process working. There was a political
it takes a supermajority, a veto-proof majority to get it back. Yeah. Okay.
The general accretion of power, a one-way ratchet away from the people's representatives. If you heard Justice Gorsuch during the oral argument, and we talked about this quite a bit throughout our coverage of this case, that moment is definitive in where this thing would go. And as you start digging through all of the things you're going to hear about this case, there's one section that I really do want you to hear. This is the conclusion of Justice Gorsuch's concurring opinion in the learning resources case. What a concurring opinion means is that this particular justice agrees with the outcome. The tariffs were illegally put together under IEEPA, but allows the justice to kind of give his additional thoughts or clarification on his position. And this section is meant for you. It's meant for you. It's not meant for me, the lawyer and the law professor. It's not meant for the different associations and lobbyists or legislators that are trying to wrestle with this case. This message in this concurring opinion is for you. Here in its entirety is this excerpt. And I will read this because I think it is so important and so vital for you to understand what this is. For those who think it important for the nation to impose more tariffs, I understand that today's decision will be disappointing. All I can offer them is that most major decisions affecting the rights and responsibilities of American people including the duty to pay taxes and tariffs, are funneled through the legislative process for a reason. Yes, legislating can be hard and take time. And yes, it can be tempting to bypass Congress when some pressing problem arises. But the deliberative nature of the legislative process was the whole point of its design. Through that process, the nation can tap the combined wisdom of the people's elected representatives, not just that of one faction or man. Their deliberation tempers impulse, and compromise hammers disagreements into workable solutions. And because laws must earn such broad support to survive the legislative process, they tend to endure, allowing ordinary people to plan their lives in ways they cannot when the rule shifts from day to day. In all, the legislative process helps ensure each of us have a stake in the laws that govern us and in the nation's future. For some today, the weight of those virtues is apparent. For others, it may not seem so obvious. But if history is any guide, the tables will turn, and the day will come when those disappointed by today's result will appreciate the legislative process for the bulwark of liberty that it is. Well, there you have it. Dodging a constitutional iceberg. That's what we did last week. Will there be more tariffs? Probably. Ask my friend Ken Adamo, Jason Miller, or Greg Fuller. They'll all tell you this is not the end of the story. But it is an interesting moment in time. Dodging a constitutional iceberg. You never know you're in a historical moment until it's over. But for many of you, this case, the learning resources in the VOS selections case, was one that caught your imagination. Maybe because I kept screaming about it across this great nation of ours for the last couple of months. But more to come. Always more to come. We'll catch you later. That sounds right.